Well, thanks everyone for joining our call today. I know you all have very busy schedules, and I appreciate the time you're taking in your day to see this presentation. Several months ago, I was asked to participate in a program through Prosperity Now and Pacific Community Ventures to train me in ways to encourage small and medium-sized businesses to adopt good job practices. I was tapped primarily because I work with folks like you, small business owners, and who have an interest in making their industry better for workers, for customers, for mostly your communities at large. So I've been attending workshops over the past 6 months and will continue to attend these workshops through 2025. Um, I also can continue to have these conversations I will continue to have these conversations over the next year. There we go. But I'm really curious, why does good job creation matter to you? So I'm going to be asking questions as we go along. And did you start your business initially with job creation in mind? And when did you see that it was important to what you're doing? So I'm wondering if it was for building better communities or fulfilling a personal commitment, offering good jobs for economic mobility, good work experiences. What were your motivations and why does good job creation matter to you?
I didn't start either the business that I work for, but I've come on and I'm a minor partner now. But for the continuation of it to keep it going, I think it'd be about building better communities and being part of the community for both job creation, but also just as a um to be there for the people in our neighborhood. I
Yeah.
like people want, have them a comfortable place they can come to see a friendly face and have a good meal or have a good drink or so for both, I think it's just being part of the community.
Yeah,
Uh,
I mean, and I think that creating a good job for people who are in your community helps to build that community better. You have, um, better options for housing if you're paying people well. Um, the idea that, people who can work, if they're, if you're able to provide, um, a job that either provides transportation vouchers or you're located in a place where, people can get to easily, which is part of creating a good job. You're bringing people into the community itself a lot more, and that continues to grow the community. Yeah, I mean, offering a job for economic mobility, I mean, when you're a small business, sometimes that might not be possible because you only have a certain number of positions available. But it's certainly, giving someone a good work experience who may not have worked at all. I mean, a young person who for the first time is coming to work. I mean, that certainly was important to me when I was starting my business was I wanted to give people a good first work experience or a good first work experience in the US or a first good work experience out of incarceration. Those are all were really important to me as I ran my restaurant. So it was really important. But the big question is like, what is a good job? And the framework I'm showing you here comes from the work done by the Aspen Institute. It's a think tank that, one of these think tanks that just does all this work around issues that are really important, creating dialogue, leadership, and action around these very important issues. And one of them is good job creation. So, within the Aspen framework, they talk about three very specific kind of pillars of this issue of good jobs. One is economic stability, another one is economic mobility, and the other one is is equity and equity, respect, and voice. And so we're going to go through each one of those and what they look like. So what makes a good job for economic stability is, stable family sustaining pay, sufficient access to broadly available benefits, fair and reliable scheduling practices, safe and healthy and accessible work conditions. So all of those kind of boil down to the very basics, how much are you paying people and are you able to provide benefits to them? And those benefits could be anywhere as basic as healthcare, but also benefits, as I mentioned before, maybe transportation vouchers and other types of benefits that make it better for them and easier for them to work, to get to work. Fair and reliable scheduling practices is, I think, something that is a challenge for restaurant owners, especially small ones, because I think there's this issue of um, can if we're really slow, do I keep you on, and can we be flexible with your schedule? And I'd love to hear more from you as we talk about that. Safe and healthy and accessible working conditions, a workplace that prioritizes employee well-being and safety. And I think in a restaurant, one of the most important things is staying healthy, perhaps taking time out after a very, very, busy, slamming service to, decompress, unwind, having food, a family meal at the beginning of the service, those kinds of things that really have everyone taken care of. And in particular, I don't know if you're familiar with Chow, the organization that does restaurants, but they have a wonderful program that can help you develop, have an idea of how to deal with mental health, addiction, and other issues that come up in the restaurant industry. So it's really, really hard. Um, what is equity, respect, and voice? And here is, is the organization set up with policies that are transparent and enable accountability? Does it support a sense of belonging and purpose? Is it advancing diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility? And does it address discriminations? These are some of the things we're going to discuss in a few minutes as well. The ability to improve the workplace. An employee's voice is in a good, for a good job is important. So to make that part of what we consider a good job or mental health support for restaurant, what a good job is. And finally, economic mobility, a clear and equitable hiring and advancing pathways, which sometimes is difficult if you don't have a lot of employees, but you can think about ways and discuss with your employee, specific ways that they would like to advance. What are they trying to get to? If there's some kind of skill that they want to have developed, and then putting in feedback processes in place that support that. Accessible and paid training and development opportunities, which we do have sometimes in the restaurant industry. It might be something like ESL as well. And then other types of wealth building opportunities, maybe a 401k or some other kind of savings plan. So those are the three pillars: economic mobility, equity, respect, and voice, and third one, economic stability. Stability being really kind of that core basic important thing. So here, I was listening to this podcast called The Assignment with Audie Cornish, and it was an interview with David Stockwell from Fawn and Amanda Cohen from Dirt Candy. And one of the things that he said in this interview, and it was really about tipping, was it's a hard industry. The restaurant is a hard industry to do the right thing in. And I thought that was so profound because there is such a, the idea of creating a good job and the amount of time and maybe sometimes the money that's involved. It's a hard balance because, there's this hard balance between making money and creating, sometimes creating a good job means, forfeiting the bottom line in some way. So it's a hard industry to do the right thing in. There's a lot of obstacles and a lot of moving parts and lots of people in the community that you have to be accountable to, whether it's the taxes that you pay or paying higher wages because they're legislated that way. So it's hard to do the right thing. And I actually put in here, I think it's a link to to that particular podcast, but I was really interested in it. My question is, are there areas here that we were talking about that you see as a big challenge for you in creating a good job? And in also in that realm, what are some of the things that you're doing that you are really proud of and that you've managed to put into place? And what are the areas that you think you would need support in getting done for a better job?
I can actually, I'm just getting back in the car and can unmute for a second. Um,
Okay.
and maybe I'll try this before my baby starts crying.
Oh no.
But but yeah, I think like we're a business that started with the hope of I think there's a lot of practices. I would say the way that I would qualify how we tried to start our business is we tried to set goals that felt challenging but achievable, and then raise the bar when we hit those markers. And frankly, it has been a terrible time for business in Oakland. It's really challenging, and hitting those markers has like not even happened. But
Mm.
I mean, we raised the bar many times in ways that it took getting really creative in many ways. Like it would mean, when we wanted to have paid training or something like that, we would do it on um, on work time that someone's shift would have normally run. So, and I would have opened for them in advance and kind of used our labor creatively. Things like that, where it didn't necessarily cost us more, but we could still try to offer more. Did not create a good job for me, I will say. And I do think
We're
that
not talking about you guys.
I know, but I've realized that there are a lot of sacrifices that we made that put ourselves as owners in terrible positions, where we didn't even pass the baton on to managers. We just took the whole burden ourselves, and in ways that I think, frankly, are fully unsustainable for us, but also for the business, and create, I think, a bit of an expectation that jobs are cushier than they can be, in ways that I think are not productive. Like it's not about creating a good job. It's beyond that. It's just inefficient systems at times. So I would say that there's a lot of like push and pull that we've had struggled with by starting from a place of fully living our values, and the way that we pay, the benefits that we provide, like making, trying to quote unquote do the right thing.
Yeah.
and it's really strained our business to a place where, I don't know if we're going to make it. I don't know what that's going to look like for us. We've had to, in the last year, make a lot of shifts that don't feel ideal, but feel like it's what we need to do to survive. And I think of the things that you mentioned, the one that we struggle with the most is scheduling. And we, I think, do a very good job of keeping we have set schedules for the whole team, and that's felt really easy to do, honestly, because it is something that we basically, when we hire for new positions, we just state clearly in the hiring process, these are the shifts that we're hiring for. So, basically, if you can't do it, then that's wait for another round of hiring. Um, and but where it's been more challenging is on our slower nights. We're kind of already down to our most skeleton crew, but we, on our slower nights, will still we'll go from 3 in total on the front of house team to potentially 2 if it's a strong team. And when it comes to cutting that third person, it's the way that we try to approach it is as an ask, like, are you interested in, is anyone interested of the 3 in being cut tonight? And historically, often there's been one person who's interested in that. So we've not needed to forcefully cut someone often. But I think with that happening more and more, with it being slower and slower in Oakland, it's something that now people are getting to a point where they don't want to get cut. And so we're kind of facing that challenge of how often do we need to cut people and how do we do it?
Yeah.
And I think hours have just felt too short. But there's also, I would say, there's push and pull where folks want a 4-day a week schedule, and if we can offer, like, for some people we can offer them a 5th day of work and more hours, and they don't want that. So in those situations I feel less like I'm not doing the right thing by not offering them more hours on one day, because I have more hours that I can offer. But there's, I think we've had to do a lot of learning of finding the balance between really clear expectation setting up front and transparency, and knowing what this job is going to be like in the hiring process, and 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 then really holding ourselves accountable to actually making those cuts that we need for the business, which we're not always the best at. But I think that the tool that's felt the most helpful to me is, I feel like, I tell people exactly what they can expect to earn when we hire them or before we hire them. And I tell them everything that I have informationally about how, what, because we do have a 20% service charge. So there's a relatively stable range of what tips look like on top of hourly rates.
Yeah.
And so there's a fair, so that helps in being able to tell people, and that's over a 2-week pay period. So it's not day by day. So hourly pay is fairly stable across all teams, and hours are less stable, but are still, I try to be as transparent as I can and explain in the process, when there's something that I don't have control over, what that might look like. And that is the way that I try to bring in, what I've learned over time, I think, and I wish I had known this more when I started the business, that if I can, and we have a health stipend that we provide that we totally can't afford. And now I'm like, I don't want to go back on this, but if I were to start the business again, I think it would feel more genuine and more correct for long-term sustainability, including job sustainability, for, of having a business that lasts. It would feel more genuine to tell people, hey, like, we really want to offer healthcare and we can't afford that as business right now. You will see us transparently sharing our financials, which is something that we do. And you'll see that if we do start making a profit and it's enough of a profit to sustain that, that's going to be the first thing that comes on, but we can't do that right now.
Right.
And I think that would be a much smarter approach. And I wish I had done that.
Yeah, because there isn't necessarily the expectation of having healthcare right up front, but giving them the incentive to help build business such that, healthcare could be an option, when you reach a certain point. And there's a couple of things I'm hearing from you. The real central value of transparency is very important in what you do, and that is an important
Definitely.
part, right? A very important part of good job, of creating a good job, one that has a lot of transparency and accountability. And the other thing, and you had mentioned scheduling and how difficult that is, but also how you've had to take on more as a result of the way that you structured certain things to make it easier, like curious if there would in the future hopefully be a way for you to hand off that responsibility to somebody else in the company that would be able to do it instead of you. So it's like you're it's so important to you that these jobs are good such that it actually makes it difficult for yourself in some way.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And in the since I had my baby, I have had to hire a front of house manager because I can't cover drop schedules anymore. Um, and
Yeah.
that was the main reason why I needed to hire someone. A lot of the other stuff I'm still doing and can't do remotely, but that is, with my manager, it's something where I did explain, like, here are the ways that I will, here are things that we can't offer as a business. Like, we can't offer paid trainings outside of regular shifts right now.
Right.
Um, Even though we want to really badly, we can't. But what we can do is the way that I've managed things in the past is, what I explained before. And I'll say, like, I don't have any expectation that you do that. But if there's something that's really important to you that I'm saying I can't do as a business owner, if that were something, then I'm open to a conversation about you doing things in a similar way, as long as we're also talking about what how I can support you. If that means extra time for you in your week, and it's a slow week, great, that's fine. If it's a really busy week, then how else can I support you with stuff that I can do on the back end and take off your plate? And so
Right.
we, are trying to find the balance in that way. But the reality is we can't afford having a front of house manager right now, but we have to because I have a child, a newborn, and that's like part of the strain as well.
Um, is there anything you want to add, Jane? Anything that that's coming up for you as a challenge?
Oh, I think we have similar challenges.
Yeah.
Do you have anything to add to that?
Okay. Well, let me go on to the next slide here. All right. It's hard industry to do the right thing in. Um, One of the things that, we're talking about is with creating a good job is a clear hiring and advancement pathways, which I think is I think hiring is one thing that we all do, whether we're small or large, but having advancement pathways, is kind of difficult in small businesses, because there just isn't so much. But I think it's really important, that you have if you do have opportunities for people to step up or receive, more pay, that you're really transparent in what those advancement steps are. And the other thing that is so frequently a problem is that people get promoted because they do their job well, but they're not specifically skilled or able to become managers or leaders. So it's important to in addition to bringing in, to promoting people, to give them the tools that they need in order to do their job well, which would include, proper training and development, some sort of skill building program, something within your organization that you can put together, that would give them some really good pathways to advancement. And wealth building opportunities. Well, I'm doing some research on whether there are such programs directed specifically to low wage earners and people in the restaurant industry. It would be great to have a special kind of program that addresses, low wage earners and people in our industry. So that would be great. So working on that, be great to see that.
We do have a 401k plan. We can't afford to have safe harbor and do matching,
Right,
unfortunately. But we do
right.
have that option for people. Mostly it's managers, but we have some hourly that have signed up for it, which is cool to see. Because I'm like, don't do what I did and not save any of that money when you're young. And now I'm
I'm
trying to
working till
make
the
up.
day I die.
Yeah.
Right. I
Yeah.
am
But we do
complete.
have that, which I like. There's a little bit of a cost and it's some time to manage it, but it's not terrible. And if we had a few more people sign up for it, I think it'd be
Yeah.
well, but we do have that.
Do you have anything at your organization around financial literacy? That's also something that people have been talking a lot about, adding to their program.
I wanted to put a financial wellness like program together to go along when we started the 401k, and the owner that was at the time didn't really hear me on that. And wanted our broker to do it, and our broker's like, I don't do that. um, and so it's like on my list because I'd love to do that because I do know that I'm still learning a ton as I go. And when I was, in my 20s and 30s, I didn't have that kind of education. So
Mhm.
unfortunately, we don't. That owner has since separated from the company, but the other one is interested. That majority owner, he's interested in that. So he
Yeah, I
would
mean
like
that.
to, but we don't have that. Like, because I could put information out, but I want to make sure I'm putting out proper
Yeah,
information. So it's a little scary to try and do that without.
Do you guys, sorry to interrupt, do you guys do like when the open enrollment's happening for insurance, like that I found that that's a good time to do these new initiatives because even in my other position, that's when we would do it. So we try to find an institution that would benefit from this, right? They
Mhm.
they build these programs, they do all the literacy, and then we just make sure when everyone's, we're redoing the insurance and everything, we actually put these things in place, and we've done it with some success. And with it is gets complicated, right? Depending what area you live, what's available, what type of products are available for that. But even to set up retirements, like you're doing like 401ks, but there's so many other tools available. And it's just finding an institution that will actually go there and do all the training for you. And I found that like the open enrollment time is like the perfect time to do it.
Yeah. Well, our insurance is separate. It's a different broker. It's a whole separate for our
right.
health and medical benefits and dental and stuff.
Mhm.
Our financial broker, they don't have a program like that. And
Hmm.
No,
then our bank doesn't have a program like that either. Cause I
oh,
know my personal bank
that didn't.
does. And I
Yeah,
was
so
like,
that's
oh,
how
my
we do
personal
it.
bank, but my personal bank is, it's a credit union. I don't know if they want my employees if they're not. I mean, I guess if they could get them to sign up to their bank, but
Yeah.
yeah, I
That's
haven't
how
found a
we
good way to, yeah.
Yeah, that's how we do it. So while we're already doing, it's all different brokers for that, but we just do it all kind of at the same time. So we work with multiple banks for different types of accounts, and we ask what type of products they would have for our employees. And if there is enough interest, right, like they get educated during this time, and then we'll sign on if it's worth it. But
Mhm.
it's a good way to do it. But again, we have banks that are willing to come and explain all that to everyone and the administration first, and then they come out and do the presentations on it as well.
This is certainly something that I'd love to do some um, looking into with, for our members at High Roads, some sort of financial wellness training would be really great. I think that would be awesome to do. Um, well, we'll see. I'll see what we can do about it, Angel, and you and I can kind of put our heads together about the best way to put that
And
put
it'd
that
be
in.
yeah, it'd be great. I mean, there is institutions that would love to do this, like banks, right? So it also would help us find a regional partner because everyone's going to be completely different. But if we go into big metropolitan areas, I'm sure we can find through just contacts and being
Hmm.
able to provide someone like a direct resource, like, hey, this institution has it
Yeah,
already if you would like to, and they
yeah,
believe in the same mission, right? Like
exactly.
that'd be a great partnership.
Um, terrific. So then the next piece is how to build supportive culture and policies. As I was mentioning before, transparency and accountability, which is something Stella was mentioning, really powerful part of creating a culture that is transparent and is very clear about procedures. One example I have here is creating clear procedures for complaints, to whom, communicating how they're handled. I was working with a brewery in Oakland that wanted a clear and concise kind of procedure for communicating complaints and, really looking at, making sure the employee, the worker is really clear on when you come to me with a complaint, this is where we're going to go with it. This is who's going to handle it. and how we're going to get it done. Assuring fair treatment with no favoritism, clear processes for feedback. If feedback, you the question is really whether those are useful and that there maybe processes for direct feedback at any one time would be more efficient. I don't know what you do, Jane, at your places, Golden Bear and Hook and Ladder, but do you do evaluations regularly with your staff?
Our managers do not do evaluations regularly. I mean,
It's hard.
nothing formal. I mean, I know they check in and they try to check in and talk with people. I'd love to have a more regular process with that, but
Yeah.
we do not have a very good process of evaluations. We do
Yeah.
for one of the restaurants, like my office is above one of them. So if there's anything serious, I've had, people have can come up to my office and be like, hey, do you have a minute? We also started like an anonymous suggestion box, which is digital, and people can enter a suggestion that way into our
Hmm.
it's like Slack, but not Slack, but we have an anonymous one where people can post there, and it's basically they fill out a 4-minute post to that for us. So we don't know who it came from unless they want us to know that. So we haven't had a ton, but we've had some feedback come that way, which has
Hmm.
been good.
That's
Can I
good.
ask about that?
Sure.
Um, so I have really struggled with anonymous feedback in the past. And I'm basically just because I think, like, on the one hand, I think it's important to provide a safe way to share feedback, especially in a small organization where, there are like power dynamics and there's no formal HR department. So, that makes sense to me logically. And I think in practice, I fear that there's not much that we can do with anonymous feedback. I mean, it depends on the feedback, but I think it has the potential to create a lot of toxic feedback that's not productive, that's like an outlet for frustration in an unproductive way. And I've talked to about that, but like employees have said that to me. I mean, there was one employee on our opening team who was really radical and like helpful in terms of aligning sort of our values with our business in many ways. And she had a lot of concerns about anonymous feedback for that reason. And I don't know, it's something I listened to at the time, but I'm curious how it plays out and yeah, what your experience with that has been.
So we actually had some concerns about that too. And like I said, we haven't had a ton of people use this tool. We've had about 10 different things come through over the last, I don't know, several months that we've done it. We actually haven't had any real negative feedback that wasn't we haven't really had that problem. I think that one of the biggest things that I want to make sure these guys did when we started this was that they're addressing it, so people know that it's being looked at. And if there's because I guess if there's other questions, it's hard to follow up if there's no person there. So,
Yeah.
But what they've been doing is they've been doing it in lineup where they've gone, hey, we got the suggestion came in. And maybe give broad strokes depending on what it is. And then like, hey, we've considered it. These are the things we're thinking about. And they're addressing it in lineup. So staff, so everyone knows that like it's being addressed. No,
Oh yeah, that's interesting.
we haven't had anyone specifically bring up anything about one specific other person. We did have a situation that came up at our other restaurant. That was a sensitive situation that kind of blew up on social media a little bit. And that was probably the most sensitive thing that came up. But it was good that they brought it up in the suggestion because we were able to talk because they were scared, they didn't know how to address it with the staff. And now once the suggestion came in, like you guys should really, talk about this. Actually helped help them address the staff about the situation and give them all the information about it because they weren't being very transparent because they were trying to be respectful I know I'm being vague, but
No,
anyway, I think
that's super helpful and interesting. I feel like the component of sharing it at lineup and everyone having the expectation that that's going to happen um, makes a lot of sense. And I could imagine might prevent people like might tamper some of that like toxic and unproductive feedback.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
maybe like one quick follow-up question. I'm just curious if you
sure.
did get a piece of feedback about a specific person, would you share that at lineup as well, or how would you approach that?
I would do an investigation if it was about a specific person. I would talk to the managers about it and see if they've witnessed or seen anything, and start there. And maybe if not, go departmentally, like if it was a back of house or front of house situation, and just kind of talk to people if I mean, let's say it was a case of harassment or something. I would start with the managers and then try to talk to the people around in those departments to see if everyone's feeling comfortable and safe and things like that. Because those would be my biggest concerns.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense. Thank you so much for sharing. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Sure.
Thank you, Jane. I appreciate that too. Um, some of these other policies and practices to continue with a sense of belonging and purpose in their jobs. Everybody really kind of wants that for their work to keep workers, connected with the vision that you have for your restaurant and respecting individuals for who they are, gender, ethnic, and religious identities. I think I spelled religious wrong. Sorry. Adding information in appropriate languages when necessary, addressing discrimination clearly. There's something else here that I put on, which I think is really important, and I'm curious if any of you do this, a code of conduct, which everyone has to sign, and one that is posted so that customers are aware of the code of conduct as well. So the code of conduct goes both ways. I did that with one organization that I worked with. We created a code of conduct. It was pretty effective, I think. And also just, looking at your onboarding processes and making sure that all the people that um, should have a voice in the hiring process. So it might look like first of all, writing an inclusive job posting, and there's lots of information about how to craft one of those out there. You can type in how to write an inclusive job posting. Good Jobs, Good Food Jobs does a great job of promoting those. If you know that website, it's a great website, including, inclusive hiring processes and onboarding processes. And the hiring processes that I'm talking about is bringing someone into the restaurant, making sure that there are maybe is a team of people who are responsible for interviewing that person, even if they aren't, let's see if they're back of the house, if they're front of the house, just the whole team needs to have a sense that they have a say in who they work with, and it really makes a difference. And this is just an overview of all the different things that we've discussed here today. I'm going to be able to send you this recording and also the deck, the slide deck, so you can see what some of these things are. And if you want to reach us, that's how you reach us. I'm Betty. Angel is my partner in crime, and we are the High Road Restaurants team. And I'm going to stop my share.